Hello, and welcome to another pant-wettingly exciting mini-series in AndyManCam's garage, in which we're going to be fitting front brake pads, rear brake pads, and new brake fluid to this Kawasaki Versys 650. In this spine-tinglingly enjoyable episode, we're going to be changing the brake fluid. If you want to see me changing the front brake pads or the rear brake pads, click on the links on screen to see those videos now. Brake fluid. It's the lifeblood of the braking system. It's the medium through which the force is directed from the lever, down the hoses, and into the calipers, which stops you from going nose first into hard stuff that you don't want to be piling into. My brake fluid has been in there for at least 2 years, and my brakes feel really spongy. So I'm going to bleed them out, put some new stuff in. To do this, all I've got is half a litre of Castrol .4 brake fluid. If you don't know which brake fluid you need for your bike, there's a good chance that it's written on the top of your brake master cylinder. Use only .4 brake fluid from a sealed container. And it says to do it from a sealed container because this stuff actually absorbs water. So if this has been sat on the shelf, not sealed, there's a good chance it's absorbed a hell of a lot of water, and that lowers the boiling point considerably and makes it far less effective. So only ever use it from a sealed bottle. As well as that, I've got a bunch of clear pipe and a messy toolbox. Right, let's get on with it. Now the first thing to do is to cover fairings and fuel tank with something that you don't mind getting ruined, because the stuff in here will destroy paint in seconds. It's not very friendly stuff. Next, we need to take the top off the master cylinder, which, gotta say, those bolts don't look in great shape. I don't hold out much hope for this, if I'm honest. Nope, that's rounded. In typical Kawasaki fashion, they've used bolts made out of toffee instead of metal like you would expect. This could be the end of this job before I've even started. That's got it. Look at that, it's actually a square one. I have no idea where I got that from. I'm going to have to use it to put them back in again though. Well, until I get new bolts obviously, which I'll do later today or tomorrow. And that's got that one. Crisis averted, ladies and gents. Now because I've already changed the brake pads, front and rear, click the links on screen to see those videos now, I've pushed the calipers apart, which has forced fluid back up into the cylinder. So just in case there's any pressure there, or if it's likely to overflow, I'm going to get ready with this before I take the top off. So I'll put the screws down here for safekeeping. In here we've got 3 pieces. There's the metal top cap, there's a plastic piece, and then there's the rubber seal itself. As I said before, don't get any of this on your paintwork, it will destroy it. And there's my brake fluid, which actually doesn't look all that bad, so the problem could just be air bubbles rather than bad fluid. Anyway, I'm going to rest that back on top there for now. My hands are wiped just in case I accidentally touch any paintwork. So now, this here is the bleed nipple for the brake system. You need to take off this little rubber cover. If the bleed nipples on your brake system don't have a little rubber cover, you really ought to get one, because it keeps any dust and crap and badger shizzle out of there to stop it doing any damage. And then take my piece of clear hose, which I've actually got left over from the Scott Oiler kit. That's not going to go over there, is it? Then take a length of my piece of clear hose, which I've robbed from my Ket & Max chain cleaning kit. I'll have to get a new piece for that, because once I've done this, this will essentially be ruined. Stick that over the end of your bleed nipple. Make sure it's all the way on. You don't want any to be squirting out through gaps and holes. And then I've got a disgustingly dirty receptacle for catching the old brake fluid in. And I've also put my spanner somewhere. Alright, call off the search, it's under the box. So this is how this is going to work. Squeeze the lever a few times, builds up pressure, forces some liquid through. I release this with a 10mm spanner that I've got here. It forces brake fluid through. When the reservoir gets low, I then top it up with the new stuff, and we do that until the new stuff has come right through the system, which has suddenly made me realise you're supposed to start from the furthest point away from the master cylinder, otherwise there's no point, because there's just going to be air still in this one when I've bled out this one. So hold your fire, we'll leave that for now, come back to you in a minute. Brake fluid goes from the master cylinder on the top, goes into the ABS system, comes down to this caliper on the right hand side, then loops over the mudguard to the caliper on the left hand side. So this is the furthest point at the end of the system, so this is where we start. Pipe on, end into our receptacle, give the lever a squeeze, and then hold it against the bars, and loosen off the bleed nipple. Brake fluid should come whizzing out. Just like that. The lever then goes flat against the bar, tighten on the bleed nipple again, and repeat, and that's it. So, a couple of squeezes, build up the pressure, loosen the bleed nipple, brake lever goes to the bar, tighten the bleed nipple. Now, this brake fluid really doesn't look all that bad, but it is at least 2 years old, so it could just have a lot of moisture in it, could just be worn out. Oh, there's an air bubble. Well, that shouldn't be in there, so maybe I wasn't wrong after all. Right, we're at the lower level on the indicator there, so I'm going to put a bit of new stuff in. As ever with this job, having some mopping material ready for any spillages as they happen. Ah yes, that is very low. I was literally about to start sucking air into that, and that would have defeated the whole purpose of the project. Big hole to pour through, little hole to let the air out, and let's have it. Oh, that is definitely a lot clearer and golden and clean and lovely, isn't it? Seal that up, as I said, it absorbs water, and then just lay this back on top again, because there's always a chance it might squirt some fluid back in, and then it's going to go all over the paintwork. Don't want that. And we continue as before, when I remember where I've put my spanner this time. It was under me. Oh, loads of air come out then. And some more. Oh dear, no wonder it felt spongy. Just to show you that if I give it some pressure, when I then loosen the bleed nipple like this, the lever goes all the way to the bar, which I hold until I tighten it up again. And we're down to the lower end on the indicator again, so stick a bit more of this good shizzle into the pot. And continue. Tell you what, it's not the most exciting of jobs I've ever done, but it's kind of satisfying actually. The fact that this is the first time I've ever actually done this, yet it is mostly going to plan, and already the brakes do feel a lot more solid. There's another little air bubble there. So then eventually, as I expected, you're going to get to the point where you're not getting any more bubbles out of this, and the fluid itself is quite obviously a lot cleaner, a lot clearer than the stuff that was in there before. At that point, you can pop off your piece of pipe, and just like the messy breastfeeder, you give the nipple a wipe. Make sure you get any brake fluid that you may have spilt here, because although ironically you don't want to be getting brake fluid on your brake pads, because you'll break them and they won't break anymore, they'll be broken. Make sure that's properly tight. Put the rubber cap back on, and then we move to the next point in the system. Exactly the same as before. Check our level. Yep, got quite a lot in there. Take off your rubber cap, clear pipe on the nipple, and prepare for milking. Squeeze the lever, loosen the nipple, tighten the lever. That was a big bunch of air off the first squeeze. Now this one shouldn't take so long, because we should have already drawn fresh fluid all the way through the system by now. So this is just to make sure there's no air just in this corner, which I think came out on the first squeeze just then. A couple more just to make sure. Now I do know that the best way to alleviate the sponginess of a Versys brake system is to put stainless steel lines on, but sadly at the moment, what with platinum prices being the way they are, the reserves aren't performing as well as I'd hoped. But if anybody from Hell or Galfa or EBC out there wants to bung a set of stainless steel lines my way, I'll happily make a video like this showing me putting them on. Yep, I think that must be it. Look how much brake fluid I've got there. I've gone right through the system now. One quick final top up. Stick the lid back on, mop up the excess. Oh, I've made hell of a mess. Make sure that our nipple is nice and tight. Do like a nice tight nipple. Pipe off, cap back on. And last, by no means least, my ridiculous square Allen bit, put our bolts back in. And then I'll have to go and find some new ones of them later on. Or just leave it. I mean, why not? Nobody's going to be able to steal my brake fluid now. I mean, because I'm sure that happens a lot. And there we go. That is that very faffy, understandably daunting, but altogether not that difficult job done. And the brakes, they definitely do seem to have a tiny bit more bite. I mean, they're still squashy as hell, but all you Versys riders out there and know that feeling. The brakes on this bike are terrible. But anyway, there we go. Front brake system, fluid replaced. Job done. If you haven't already seen me changing the front pads or the rear pads, check the links on screen for those videos now. If you've seen them all, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you another time in AndyManCam's garage. Ride safe. Ta-ra!